Alright, so my speech is on growing up as a military child. Every child is raised differently. Some are raised to be respectful and polite, others don't get the luxury of learning those manners, and some kids only grow up in the same place surrounded by the same people their whole lives. While the military changes you, it changes the people you're around daily, it changes your environments daily. You never know where you're going to be in 4 to 5 years. Most people come to Alaska because of the military or another job opportunity. Others just simply choose to come up here for a vacation and fall in love, therefore, they decide to make this home. I was born and raised here in Alaska. My dad was raised here, but moved here because my grandpa was in the military. And my mom got stationed up here because of the Army and then decided to resign and join the Air Guard, making Alaska her home. Both my parents retired a few years ago, my dad being full-time and retiring as a chief, and my mom being part-time, retiring as a first master sergeant. Military children face unique challenges that can shape their upbringing and identity, and understanding these experiences is essential for supporting them in academic and social settings. Growing up as a military child, there are strict living standards that you don't have a choice in choosing. You also feel very alone, having to switch schools every couple of years and learning to understand that your parents have to go away for a certain amount of time, whether that's months or years. Children struggle to grip the reality of when their parent will return home. The first topic I want to cover is going to be about the living standards of a military child and how you really don't have a choice in what happens. If you have parents who are in the military, then you have probably moved from one place to another, leaving your friends, school, and the place that you used to call home. The biggest challenge for me was getting used to consistency, and this is from Ella N, and she is a military child, and she spoke up in April in Military Appreciation Month. Moving every 2 to 4 years for the military can make it challenging to move schools and make new friends, especially for young children. But the more you do this and it becomes a consistent change every couple of years, things will get easier for you. Ella N is a student who gave her input to Penn State's study about military children in the month of April, and she has been a part of an active Army family her whole life. The article states that it's a rhythm that Ella has grown accustomed to and turns the move into a positive experience for her. Most kids will struggle with the move for the first couple of years, but as they do it more, especially once they hit the end of middle school and start of high school, it becomes easier. There is also a huge mental toll that it has on children moving to new places and feeling alone. Moving as a military child can have some major effects on their mental state and determines how they handle moving to an unfamiliar area. There was a study done by the Health Behavior News Science Service, Journal of Adolescent Health, and the study shows that the kids who made a geographic move have increased odds of mental health problems. Amanda Tremilos is a military spouse and a mother of 4 and a teacher, and she states that most schools don't know what to do with military children, as when they arrive, they either ahead of the class or severely behind on the material due to what they were learning at their last school. She also mentions a student is not positively integrated academically at their new school, then they will also struggle socially as well. As much as a child has the positivity to struggle mentally and with the move, how much harder is it when your parents aren't there fully for you because of their deployments? The last thing I want to cover in this speech is the effects deployment can have on a child. That's deployment to wars or even just a TDY, which just means temporary deployment, for a couple of months. Parents who are in the Army tend to get sent out to fight in our wars, whereas parents in the Air Guard tend to get sent on TDY for a couple of months, which is something I struggled with growing up. There were times where me and my siblings had to take care of one another and rely on each other for a couple weeks at a time, and other times it was just as long as 3 months. Even when only one parent was gone, there was a whole shift in the house. There are 3 stages to a deployment and the effects they have on the children. Stage 1 is the pre-deployment, which can be a very confusing time for the children not knowing when they are going to see their parent again. Stage 2 is the deployment, which often children will experience feelings of emptiness, loss, and abandonment. This is the time when children start to learn how to cope with these large feelings and usually start to act out. Stage 3 is the post-deployment, which often is filled with the honeymoon phase for most, and Stage 3 is the post-deployment, which often is filled with the honeymoon phase for most, and the difficulty of readjusting to the life at home. Unless the parent struggles with PTSD, then it can be a very difficult time being back home, and as a child, it can be a very scary time trying to understand what is happening. In general, being a military child is not an easy thing to go through, no matter what branch your parents are a part of. It has its pros and cons, but the reality of it is not everyone knows how to help a child through the struggles they may face. Trying to help a child through months and sometimes years of deployment, helping them get comfortable in an unfamiliar place, and making sure that they aren't on the downslope with their mental health can be very difficult as a single parent. Once you have experience with being a military child or dealing with them on the day-to-day basis, helping them strive academically and socially becomes a normal task and helps the kids settle into their new environment. Growing up with Air Guard parents meant that they were very rarely gone on TDY and never got deployed, but that doesn't mean I never experienced the hardship of the job. I had to move schools several times, and I struggled in the new school environment and had several issues with my mental health, feeling that my parents were never actually present in my life.